All right, the latest edition of Dead Red Cincinnati. Brian Giesenslaw, former Reds pitcher Sam LeCure. And Sam, when we're doing our day job at Great American Ballpark, Reds Live pre- and post-game show, how many times does someone come up to you and say, hey, do you guys go on the road with the Reds? And we say, no, we typically don't travel. Very little of that. Well, what do you do when the Reds are out of town? Where are you guys when you do the show when they're on the road? How many times do you get that?
We are here. We do. I get it all the time, and I got so where we are is in the studio, which is downtown Cincinnati, real
Hmm.
close to Fountain Square.
Yep.
I currently am in the control room. I don't spend a lot of time here. You can see the monitors behind me. If you look up there, there's Geese over there. So we're in the same place. A lot of monitors. I'm going to show you a little bit about it.
A lot
Uh,
of buttons.
a lot of buttons.
Careful.
Okay. A lot of buttons, a lot of different things going on. Keys, where you at? Yep, over there.
Right there.
I don't know how to work it. Yep. So this is where they kind of do everything. The different little spots that come on TV. It says, Ray St. Clair or whatever the case may be. This is where it happens.
And
And
since you've got on this cool headset, I'm assuming this is like ground control for
yeah,
the
yeah. Somebody's
broadcast.
telling us what to do from here, and then
Got it.
we try to make it look good. So, all right, Geese and Slaw, check, 1, 2, take it away.
Are we clear for launch?
Clear for launch, Major Tom.
Okay. All right. Stay off the buttons,
I
but
will.
that's you. So the studio, which you will recognize if you watch Reds live on TV, that's where I am right now. So you got a little bit of the stuff behind us. You'll recognize the logos. It's very well lit, which means my head shines. So there's that. But this is home away from home. When we're not at Great American Ballpark, we're typically in here in the studio. I'm at the desk. We have our two chairs. People always ask about the bell. This is where the bell sits in the studio. And what we're going to do today, we're really breaking every rule of the podcast. So if you are one of our faithful, loyal audio version listeners, I would just encourage you to go to YouTube or go to Bally Sports and check out the broadcast portion of this episode if you don't do any others, because this is going to be very visual. So we'll try to be very descriptive in what we're doing, but it's going to be visual because we're going to walk the halls. We're not just staying here. We're going to walk the halls. We're going to take a tour, give you the nickel tour of the Bally Sports Studio downtown Cincinnati, right?
That's right.
All right. Shifting gears now. Let's get down to brass tacks. Let's
Okay.
do the leadoff spot here. The leadoff spot, as we get back to the Cincinnati Reds, is Elly De La Cruz. Elly De La Cruz, as it stands right now, has played fewer than 200 big league baseball games, and we have another first. I mean, and there is a long list of Elly De La Cruz does this for the first time since. This stat, Sam, stuck out this week. In fewer than 200 big league games, he's the only player since 1900 with 80 extra base hits, 83 walks, and 84 steals. 80, 80, 80 in fewer than 200 games hasn't been done going all the way back to at least 1900 when they started keeping such records. What do we say about that? What do you even say when you come up with a stat like that?
Well, I think that, obviously it illustrates the power speed combination that he has. The stolen bases thing is kind of, was a lost art for a long time. The power, it's not all home runs. We've seen him hit the long 450-foot home runs. He'll grow into that and understand how to hit more home runs as his career goes on, as he tightens up his swing. That'll be more. But we love the doubles and triples because we like watching him run. The thing that sticks out to me is the walks, just
Yeah.
because of where he came from last year and the number of walks he had and a similar number of at bats. I think last year it was maybe 35. This year that number's up to 50. So just within that short time frame, you can see him getting better in that regard already. We knew he was going to run. We knew there was going to be some extra base there. But I think just the increase in the walks over such a short amount of time, I think, is something that probably stuck out to me more than anything. But yeah, he's kind of a singular player.
And that's the point. We know certain guys have labels and there are categories for certain players, 30-30, 40-40. Those Elly De La Cruz is creating new categories.
Yeah.
because we haven't seen this category before. For all the great players of the past, for some of the great young players that are a few years ahead of Elly De La Cruz,
Yeah.
Acuna had his what, 40,
40,
70,
70.
40, 70. New category. De La Cruz is doing the same thing.
Pretty neat. I mean, and I think that he's just gonna continue to do it because when you're already ahead of the curve and you're just gonna continue to create new ones as long as you stay healthy and as long as your trajectory continues to rise, which I think, you and I have talked about this. He's impressed me a lot just with some of the changes in his swing from the right-handed side, him being a little bit more patient on from both sides of the plate on taking his walks, which is part of this 80-80-80. The instincts he has, I mean, there's still going to be some of those youthful mistakes, but he's I know everybody's a fan because he's exciting, but as like a base baller, in my head, I'm thinking, man, this guy's really impressive.
All right. Shifting gears now. The Reds recently played the Braves, and in Atlanta they had a rainout. So we've talked, I think, before, at least offset. You can slide about. We want to continue to pull the curtain back. Today we pull the curtain back on what we do on TV as a studio broadcast. That's our theme. So let's pull the curtain back on what happens in a big league clubhouse. There's the rain delay that happens. That's a separate story. But as the Reds were forced to play a doubleheader against the Braves, what does that game day look like for a big league ball player when you wake up earlier than you're used to waking up? You're excited to play too, but it blows a big hole in your routine, man. Everybody's got their thing.
Yeah.
Going to the ballpark for an afternoon game or going to the ballpark for an evening game. This blows up the whole routine. Pull back the curtain, big league clubhouse on a day when you're facing a doubleheader. What happens?
So, I mean, game one was going to be game one regardless, right? I mean, it was going to start at the same time that it ended up starting.
Mm-hmm.
All good, but you modify it to a degree of you're going to take less swing, like you're going to get your warm up in. I mean, even just a regular day game that starts at 12:20, you're going to modify that, so that's okay. I think leading into game one, I think you're fine. It's what you do in between games and based on what happened in game one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, the starter went 3 innings, so you had to cover a lot of innings with the bullpen, and then so as a bullpen guy, you may prepare a little bit differently, throw a little bit less, you're more expecting to throw in a certain situation like that. As an offensive player in between games, you're not going to go and kill yourself with a bunch of swings because you need your body. You have to give it that short amount of time to recover as best as you can. So it's closer to 100% by the time game two starts, right? Because you can't just put 8 different guys out in lineup one and 8 in lineup two. I mean, there's going to be guys that play both sides of the doubleheader, right? So that's a part of it. And then, what goes on for the couple hours in the clubhouse in between game one and game two?
That's where I want to go. What goes on in there?
It could be a number of things.
Okay.
There's definitely going to be, an eating. Guys, even though they're going to play another game and go out and get dirty again, they're going to shower because they want that game 2 uniform to feel clean. You look good, you feel good, you play good, all that type of stuff. So there's going to be a shower. There's going to be some food. That's normal stuff. Depending on how far apart those games are, there might be a little cat nap.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys might go in there and I mean, they've got all these studies now that if you take a 20-minute nap, it's more beneficial for you than a 2-hour nap, right? Because you don't get yourself into REM sleep. So you get right on the cusp of it. And then you wake up and you feel pretty refreshed, like you've taken a long nap.
All right. But I'm assuming that Sam LeCure with his Red Bull in the bull, there was no nap involved here. So how would you best distribute your nervous energy between games if you did or didn't pitch or were expecting to pitch and didn't? I know you're going to eat, but I would imagine that you're not the guy that sits down much.
No, we don't. So what I remember most, I mean, the last part of my career, Jumbo Diaz and you guys have to remember Jumbo, we would play Nintendo 64 multiplayer James Bond, the Goldeneye, where you're running around, you're shooting everybody. So he'd always say, "Corre por tu vida," which is run for your life. So we played a good bit of video games. Other guys would play, PlayStation, MLB The Show, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Definitely, I mean, you can't go to a baseball clubhouse and not find some card playing going on.
Yeah.
A lot of that was, some guys, I feel like the further up the ladder you got, basically the more money you got, the more likely there was going to be some gambling going on. But for a lot of guys, it was a game called Pluck, which is a variation of spades.
Mhm.
If you've ever played spades, it's basically spades where you call the suit, but you can also steal some tricks. I won't go into the whole thing, but there was definitely cards. There was definitely going to be, some video games going on. That's where I remember spending the last portion of my career, maybe a little bit of Mario Kart mixed in there too. Um, yeah, and then the other guys kind of do their things. I mean, some guys might play on the phone. Some guys might go into the cage and hit a little bit extra. Some guys might go watch a little bit more video. There was opportunity for there to be baseball centric stuff, but I think you want to use that short amount of time to kind of flush game one, no matter
Mhm.
what, because I mean, this is a great example of the short term memory. I mean, you just had game one, you won or lost. You don't really want to carry either one of them to game two because its whole new adventure just happens to be in the same day. But yeah, we, you know, had, a couple hours to kind of do this and do that and get ready to go again. Corre Porto
And
Vida.
and someday we're gonna get Jumbo Diaz. You gotta
Oh,
look
yeah.
Jumbo up.
I
Track
love
Jumbo
Jumbo,
down.
man. I love
We
Jumbo.
You could find Jumbo somewhere. All right, this is the first, uh,
Are we on the move?
of a couple of moves. This is gonna
Okay.
be what we do. So we're gonna move through the studio. I'm gonna start,
You
and
go
I'm gonna
first.
go from the studio where we do the show down the hall, very short walk to the office where I come in.
See the on-air sign? Yeah,
Yeah,
love
there's
that.
the lobby. When I come in and when you come in, we go different places to get ready for the show. So my little spot is a very generic but very lovely accommodations. This is my office.
All
So
right,
Sam, you can go ahead and move to your next spot, and I'll kind of
you're
describe
sat.
what's going on right here.
All right, let's see. I see all
When
the buttons and such.
I come in to start the day and we prep for the show, for the pregame show, this is where I go. You and I are both closed door people. You and I are both
The
people that
OG.
look at that guy. Look at that guy.
The OG. I haven't changed much. Wow.
Yeah, hang on one second. Hey Joe, can you run in there and get a pad and my phone that I left in
Oh,
there?
he's
See, we're
talking to me.
doing this on the fly. But we would come in here and close the door, and here's where I prep. I need a little quiet. I need some space to do what I do, and so this is just my very
He's our engineer. He fixes everything.
generic little office that we have right here. You're awesome. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. Get to your spot because we got to do five and dive.
Going.
All right. So five and dive. I'll go ahead and describe five and dive today. Seeing as how we just saw the latest induction class into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, thought we'd play off that a little bit. And one of the prerequisites, as we all know, to be in baseball's Hall of Fame is you have to be 5 years removed from your playing career. That's one of the rules. Not here. We're waiving that rule today for our election committee of one, which is Sam LeCure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you for active players, active big leaguers that you believe will be Hall of Famers. We're going to do 5, but I want 3 slam dunks, and then I want 1 on the fence, and then 1 stretch pick, a player right now that would be a stretch, but you would put your neck out there and say, that guy's got a chance to be a Hall of Famer. So we're going to do 5. We're going to start with the 3 slam dunks. So give me one first.
Okay, I'm going to go with Mike Trout.
Why?
Well, because
At least give you the opportunity.
if you take his first 10, he could stop right now. And based on, a lot of the voters in the Hall of Fame are using WAR. I mean, he has passed, I think he has more career WAR than Derek Jeter, who was, as close to a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer as you could get. So based on that, he's got 3 MVPs. He's got 11 All-Stars. I mean, you go down the list, all the counting stats, and the underlying metrics all definitely support that if he would have played, if he'd stopped his career now, he'd be a Hall of Famer.
All right. Number 2, slam dunk, active player to Hall of Famer is who?
Justin Verlander. He's got,
love it.
I think maybe the most wins of any player or any pitcher that's going right now. He's around 250. He's got over 3,000 strikeouts. He's got World Series titles. So he's kind of checked it. 3-time MVP 3-time Cy Young, 1-time MVP, got the World Series. Um, he's done just about everything you could do, and his wife's Kate Upton. That helps.
That's a whole different. It's a whole different category.
That's some Hall of Fame right there.
That's yeah, that's a whole different category. Just like De La Cruz creating new categories.
That's right.
Number three, give it to me.
So I had three guys I really wanted to pick from here.
Stop with the disclaimers. Just give me the guy.
Max Scherzer.
There you go. Why?
Pretty much the same category as Justin Verlander. A lot of wins, 3-time Cy Young, no hitters, 20 strikeout game, World Series, former teammate from high school. So I had to pick him. So the other disclaimers, the two guys that I wanted to throw in, but you only gave me three, were Clayton Kershaw and Joey Votto.
All right. All right. So that's the three slam dunks.
Okay.
We had Trout, Verlander, and Scherzer for the three slam dunks.
Yes.
A guy on the fence. Who's it going to be?
Andrew McCutchen.
Ooh, I like that. Make a case. Sell it to me.
Won an MVP. Was basically from 2009 to 15 as premier of a player as there was. So, a lot of time Hall of Fame voters will pick your like peak seasons, and I don't know what the stretch is. It might be 6 or 7 year peak time. During those 6 or 7 years for him, he was about as good as it got. I said the MVP, he was the power speed threat of that time. It was kind of a 20-20-20 guy, 20 homers, 20 stolen bases, 20 doubles, hell, maybe 20 triples. I don't know, not quite that much, but always with good average, Gold Glove ability in center field. So, and did just a lot of great things for the Pirates organization during that time.
I like that one. That's a good pick. And finally, a guy that maybe projects, but some people might go, hey, tap the brakes. He's not there yet. He's not far enough down that road yet, but someone that you would stretch and predict now has Hall of Fame career potential.
You don't want the disclaimers. Okay. Elly De La Cruz. I mean, I just feel like at this stage of his career, with him creating categories, him being so young, as long as, like we said earlier, and I don't want to beat the dead horse. I almost didn't want to pick him, but at this pace and him continuing to get better already, year over year.
He's 22.
He's 22 years old. So counting stats when you start that young are going to be there, right? It's going to be some of the other things around him. And I think he's going to be great for the game, just et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a number of reasons why I feel like he's a guy that it's only a stretch because of where he is in his career. If he does this for 10 years, it becomes much less of a stretch.
All right. That was outstanding, but I'm going to allow you this much rope, this much leeway to elaborate on one of the guys you mentioned, former teammate Joey Votto. That's the conversation. That's the water cooler bar bet conversation in Cincinnati between now and whenever he's eligible, which is at least 5 years down the road. What's your take on Votto? Sell number 19 as a Hall of Famer, or where he might be a little bit lacking?
I think he is. So I was going to use him as my fence player, but I don't think he is a fence player. I think Joey is going into the Hall of Fame. I've had to remove myself from the situation because, when I was playing with Scott Rowland, who just got elected recently, I wasn't sitting there. I mean, I was in awe of Scott because he was huge and because I watched him with the Cardinals, I had followed him, and now I'm in the same clubhouse, but I had to remove myself from the fact that we were teammates and say, all right, well, yes, Joey's a Hall of Famer. Like, look what he did in his career with the on-base titles, the MVPs. There was a couple years, him continuing to do it. There was the 2010 MVP. He maybe should have won it in 2016 and could have won it again in 2021. So that's a long stretch of excellence, right? And doing it, I love doing it for one franchise. He's atop the leaderboards, in Cincinnati Reds history, where there's a lot of history. And I think certainly he was kind of maybe one of the, what's it called? Sabermetrics darlings, when it first started, and the voting has certainly trended more towards that as the years have gone on. They're looking for those underlying metrics, and Joey certainly has those. So he's not a fence player. Is he first ballot? I wouldn't think so. I mean, could be. But I see him more as a second or third ballot Hall of Famer, which, by year, but he very well could be first ballot. I don't see that as much, but yeah, definitely Joey's going into the Hall of Fame.
Make a lot of people happy that watch and listen to this with that analysis. All right, before we move
You got to
on,
go.
though, our producer Lindsay pointed out that my area is boring,
Yeah.
and it does kind of look like a doctor's office.
Well, I have
But
the windows behind me that I get to
yeah,
look over the city, but I can't keep them closed for lighting purposes.
right. You got the office with the view. I have what is not really an office; it's a common space. This would be a common space that I happen to lay claim to most days when we come in to do a studio show. So it has all of the necessary things that I need to do good TV or to attempt to do good TV. But I just wanted to point that out. All right, I'm going to move. I'm going to go down the hall. We got a couple of minutes left. We're going to continue the tour. And so as I go down the hall, thanks to engineer Joe Zink for all that he does for us, as we move down the hall now. So there's actually a game in progress. So I'm going to show you. So when the game is happening at Great American Ballpark, there's a production truck on site where they press all the buttons and call all the cameras and all that stuff. For the road right now, this happens in a former conference room here in the office, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek at that.
And explain, partner, that this. So I'm going to start moving here pretty quick too. Explain that began because of COVID.
Oh, let me go. Okay. There's Josh, game producer. Hey, Josh. Hi. Wait. Wave one more time. There it is. Okay. He's busy. Lauren and Janet working back here, and I don't want to get in anybody's way, so we're going to get out. But the wall of monitors and the buttons, and Josh communicates in there with John Sadak, Jeff Brantley, Chris Welsh, those guys on site as they do the game. So that's that part of this. And Sam, you're where?
I am in the sound room, which is basically just used for pre and post game. So again, more buttons. And so when we're getting ready to go on air, a gentleman for sure named Jim Merkel or Randy Campbell, they will push these buttons up to allow our mics to be open or closed. That's very important.
That's very important.
That's very important. There's always a hot mic around. So this is what happens in that room. Yep. A lot of different things going on. Hot. Everything you anticipate every mic being hot. So this is the sound room.
All right. Why don't you move on to your final stop?
Okay.
And I'll say that as we move through our days, so we showed you how we and where we prep for the show as we get set to do it in our respective corners. And then as we do the show in the studio, and you've got the folks in the control room and the audio booth and everything else, then at some point, Sam, we're here to watch the game to get ready for the post-game show. And so we may watch the game in various places. We may go back to our space. Do your edit bay really quickly, and then we'll go.
Okay, so a lot of the features that you'll see where, Brian's talking to Tyler Stevenson about catching or whoever about whatever, he'll get into here and kind of put all the video that he's shot, the sound he shot, and cut it all together and make it look real nice and pretty for you folks at home. Brian does a great job with that. I have no idea how to use this stuff. As you could probably imagine, I'm new to the biz. It's only my 7th year, for crying out loud. But no, Brian does a great job. So I'm going to run to the studio real quick and we're going to chop it up.
Yeah. So here's how we're going to end it. At some point we watch the game, obviously, so we can get ready for the post-game show. But, you got your day at work. At some point you got to have a lunch break. So
or 3.
There's a break room here, which is where I currently am, which I take a lot of heat from Sam for, hey, Geese, what are you doing for dinner? Or it would be, hey, Geese, which leftovers did you bring for dinner? So I'm kind of married to the microwave. I'm kind of a leftovers guy from home when we're in the studio. And so I would come in here and, zap it and watch some of the game and get ready for the post-game show. And Sam might go somewhere.
Maybe.
And grab something, might bring it back, might disappear for a while, but he's always
to bring something back.
Always right on time for the post-game show. So that concludes our little studio tour, nickel tour of Bally Sports Studio. Sam, how do you think it went?
I thought it was pretty good. I hope it wasn't too choppy just with us moving around. And, sometimes it's, I don't get to wear my backwards hat and my outfits. This is the uniform, the white V-neck. And then I come and I do the show, then I take my stuff off, put it on the back of my chair, come back and get it a couple hours later. But no, I thought it was good, Geese. You do a great job of this stuff. So I think from my point of it, what we do now is I tell you to go
Yeah.
to YouTube to watch this one or watch it
Yeah.
on Bally Sports because it definitely was a visual one. Like that, subscribe that, do all that good stuff. And thanks for everybody up here at the studio for putting up with us.
Hey, Sam, this was either a massive failure or groundbreaking podcast television.
For real.
One of the two. One of the two. We'll take it either way. But thanks for checking in, and we'll see you next time.